Good afternoon from the City Ground on a bright but chilly day in the East Midlands. It's live commentary of Nottingham Forest against Brighton and Hove Albion, and commentary is less than 5 minutes away here on Sports Extra 2. Former Premier League defender Curtis Davies is alongside me, Charlie Slater. We're expecting goals, Curtis. They usually are when these two meet, and as the two teams now make their way out of the tunnel into this cauldron of noise here by the banks of the River Trent, goals expected on a weekend full of goals in the Premier League.
Yeah, well, we're hopeful, being the commentators and being neutrals here, that the fixture last year, or shall we say last season, this year was 7-0. This fixture to Nottingham Forest. So if we're able to get anywhere near that amount of goals, it'll be exciting. Do I think Nottingham Forest have it all their own way? No, Brighton have been really good, but a resurgent Forest under Sean Dyche. I'm really excited to see what they can do at home today.
Resurgent is the word that I'll probably use a couple times myself as well. Forest now out on the pitch in a kit of all red except for some white shorts. Brighton are in their home kit of blue and white stripes with blue shorts and blue socks. Forest have won 3 matches in a row under Sean Dyche, who continues to steer them away from the relegation zone. Brighton, 3 unbeaten with just 1 league defeat in 2.5 months. They could go as high as 4th today should results go their way. Dyche made 7 changes for Thursday's victory over Malmo in the Europa League, but he reverts largely to the side that was so brilliant at Anfield last weekend. He makes just 1 change from that game. Brazilian defender Murillo, not involved today, limped off on Thursday. They're taking a cautious approach with him, and another Brazilian defender replaces him at the back. That's Morato. Morgan Gibbs-White is fit, having sat out the game in the week. Starts in the midfield. That includes Elliot Anderson and Ibrahim Sangare. 2 changes for Brighton. Lewis Dunk starts at the expense of Olivier Boscagli in the middle of the defence. He made his 450th league appearance for Brighton in their win over Brentford last weekend. Maxim de Kuyper comes in for the out-of-form Carlos Baliba, who settles for a place on the bench, having been substituted at half-time a week ago. James Milner and Karu Matoma are expected to return before Christmas, but not yet fit enough for the match day squad. Morgan Gibbs-White is available though, Curtis Davies this afternoon. That'll be a boost for Sean Dyche, who applauds everybody here at the City Ground in a bluey-green Nottingham Forest tracksuit, but no Murillo.
Yeah, no Murillo, obviously been an absolute rock, and obviously getting a big goal for them earlier last week at Liverpool. So he's obviously a big player for them, but to have Gibbs-White back, your leader, your captain, the man that stayed to help try and help this team improve and hopefully have more seasons where they're in Europe. But yeah, really impressive, because we didn't expect to see him today. The fact that he's not only in the squad but he's out there starting shows that he means business and wants to get back to work.
Morgan Gibbs-White takes the armband for Forest today. Lewis Dunk is now stood the other side of the halfway line away from him. An army of mascots there and the officials there too. Michael Oliver is the referee today. He might have his work cut out. This was a fairly foul-tempered affair when the two sides met at the Amex last season. It finished 2-2, but Fabian Herzler was sent off, as was then head coach of Nottingham Forest, Nuno Espirito Santo, and Morgan Gibbs-White. Now, before the game today, both teams are going to pay tribute to former Nottingham Forest Academy goalkeeper Josh Travis, who sadly died this week at just 14 years old. He was tragically and fatally struck by a train on Wednesday night, just 6 miles along the river from here. And so the thoughts of everyone here at the City Ground, and no doubt from further afield, are with Josh's family and friends at such a difficult time.
The referee's whistle.
Impeccably observed as you would expect for such a tragic loss of such a young life. Both teams are wearing black armbands today on a bright and sunny afternoon in Nottingham, where red and white scarves are lifted above their heads and the city ground bursts into song. It's Premier League Sunday, brought to you by BBC Radio 5 Live on Sports Extra 2. This one of 7 Premier League commentaries brought to you by the BBC this weekend. The BBC Sounds app, your gateway to them all. Nottingham Forest in a kit of red and white, they're kicking from left to right in front of us. Brighton and Hove Albion also in their home kit, it's blue and white, as Lewis Dunk back in the team, back in the starting 11, having started on the bench a week ago, been ill prior to the Brentford game, as Brighton have an early attack and Ukaiba Mente is in behind. Matt Sells, quick off his line, down the left touchline, and Nottingham Forest will clear it away. Curtis Davies, we've had some click goals this weekend, we nearly had another one.
Yeah, that was really easy for Brighton there. It was obviously the start of the game where a few little passes here and there, but literally it was a hopeful rather than a great ball forward, and Minter ended up on the end of it. Probably took the wrong decision by trying to take the touch around Matt Sells rather than trying to finish it, but yeah, was caught cold himself. But fortunately for Forest, Matt Sells wasn't, and he managed to make the save.
Sells dressed in all yellow this afternoon from top to toe. He's in the goal for Forest with a back four of Savona, Milenkovic, Morato and Nico Williams in midfield. Two holding midfielders are Elliot Anderson and Ibrahim Sangare. Nico Dominguez on the left, Anand Doy on the right, and Brighton are in again down the left wing, ball into the penalty area just in front of Diego Gomez, and Forest are living a very dangerous existence here in just the opening 90 seconds of the game.
Straight away, that's 2 balls that have gone over the top. This one wasn't so far direct right over the back line, but it was a clipped ball into the space in the 10, and literally a couple of passes. So passive, the Forest midfield there, that they're able to get down the left hand side. Unfortunately for them, the Kuiper's ball flashed across, couldn't quite reach Welbeck's hooks, but that's an early warning for a Forest side that at the moment are sitting in and look quite compact. But there's no point in being compact, you're going to allow those passes between the lines, and as I say that, Welbeck gets the ball between the lines again, and now it's a 2v1 down his left hand side. Yeah,
and Kadioglu's got the ball for Brighton, attacking the Trent end here at the City ground. Little ball into the edge of the penalty area, looking for Danny Welbeck, is intercepted before it could reach him, and Forest have it, but only briefly, really struggling to settle in here. Brighton are flying at Forest out of the traps. Clearly that 7-0 hammering, their worst ever defeat in the top flight from last season, still ringing in their ears. I was listening to Fabian Herzler, the manager, speak in the build-up to this game, and he said after that match, we all burnt something. Kind of like how Phil Jackson had Michael Jordan and that great Chicago Bulls team do. They burnt something just to clear the air, and in their great credit, they went on and won, I think, 6 in a row after that 7-0 hammering here a year ago. Just to complete that Forest 11, and I'll take you through the Brighton one if I can, unless there's another Brighton Hove Albion chance. Nicholas Dominguez is on the left, Anand Doy on the right, Morgan Gibbs-White in the number 10 position behind Igor Jesus. For Brighton, Bart Verbruggen is in goal, the penalty-saving hero that ensured they won all 3 points a week ago against Brentford. A back four of Vifa, Kadioglu, Jan-Paul van Hekke and Lewis Dunk. In midfield, Yassin Ayari and Diego Gomez. Maxim de Kuiper getting forwards down the left-hand side with Yankuba Minte on the right and Jorginho Ruta in behind Danny Welbeck. Welbeck, who's in such imperious form at the age of 35 years old, 7 goals in his last 7 Premier League matches. Of course, scored in the 2-2 draw when these two sides met on the South Coast last season. We've played nearly 4 minutes, 4 breathless minutes, Curtis Davies.
Yeah, really good from Brentford's, Brighton's perspective. Obviously, they're now on the ball again going forward, but Forest just look very sloppy. You can tell they've played a game in midweek. I know they've made a few changes, but Brighton on their attack again here.
They are coming down the right-hand side. It's Minte once more on the corner of the penalty area. Now tries to roll it across towards Ruta, about 5 yards outside the box. This time it rolls in front of him, and Forest have it back again. But when they do have the ball, they're finding it very difficult to keep hold of it. But that's a lovely 1-2 between Ndoye and Gibbs-White. Gibbs-White now approaching the edge of the Brighton penalty area. To his right, he finds Jesus inside the penalty area. Right-footed shot, blocked by Lewis Dunk. And it'll be a first corner kick of the game, and it falls to the home team.
Finally a bit of quality there from Nottingham Forest. As they've picked up the ball on the right hand edge of their box, they've played some lovely intricate play where Brighton tried to go on the press. Nice flick from Morgan Gibbs-White round the corner, and it allowed him to get a 1-2 and go on the break. He laid it to the right hand side to Jesus, who was then met by Van Heck, and unfortunately for him, straight against him. But they have got a corner, and Elliot Anderson will deliver it into the box.
Nottingham Forest kicking from left to right and attacking the end where all of the Brighton fans are stood, and it's a completely sold out away end. Elliot Anderson with the right-footed out-swinging corner kick, headed up and away by Ruta, nodded back into the mix by Dominguez, and then Lewis Dunk gets a good connection in the direction of Yankuba Minte. Minte, who had that brilliant chance in the first few seconds of this game. We had the early goals yesterday, of course. Phil Foden setting the new record for this season for the fastest Premier League goal, only for that to be smashed by Thiaw later on in the evening. You could hear both of those on BBC Radio 5 Live. Today, it's West Ham against Liverpool on 5 Live in the company of Alistair Bruce-Ball and Clinton Morrison. Coming up at 4:30, huge game from Stamford Bridge. Chelsea against Arsenal with John Murray and Pat Nevin. Goalless, though, in all of the 2 o'clock kickoffs, including here at the City Ground. It's goalless between Aston Villa and Wolves, and as I mentioned, West Ham and Liverpool as well. You can listen to Villa against Wolves on Sports Extra 3. Here we are, though, on Sports Extra 2, 0-0. 6 minutes have been played. Nottingham Forest have scored 3 goals in their last 3 games. That's the first time they've done that in over a decade. They have the ball back now on the edge of their own penalty area with the one replacement today, the one change that Sean Dyche had to make. He brought Brazilian defender Morato in for Brazilian defender Murillo. Lewis Dunk picks up the ball and steers it back to his goalkeeper Verbruggen. I wonder what you think, Curtis Davis, about bogey grounds, because Lewis Dunk on his last 2 visits here last season scored an own goal in the 7-0, and the season before that was sent off in what turned out to be a 3-2 victory for Brighton. But he's not exactly enjoyed his trips to the East Midlands in the last couple of seasons or so. Yeah,
that's not a great thing. It can become a thing, because even if a team, for instance, having that 7-0 defeat, they'll want to avenge that, but sometimes a player has an individual moment that they want to get out of their mind.
De Kuyper, low, drifting ball into the area, will find Ruta, who with his right foot fires over the top of Marcel's crossbar. But again, Brighton and Hove Albion are getting a lot of joy down this left-hand side. Yeah,
the relationship between Kadioglu and De Kuyper is brilliant, because they can dovetail, they can both swap positions. And there, it was again, just they overloaded on this left-hand side. It was, this time, Kadioglu, a smart little pass from the outside with his head to De Kuyper, who's on the corner of the box, and he's just hits it across it, just on the 6-yard box. But unfortunately, it's just a little bit too fast for Ruta, and he just knocks it over the bar. But again, another warning from what seemed quite a simple passage of play from Brighton.
7 minutes played here at the City Ground. Forest 0, Brighton 0. There is Kadioglu on the ball once more on the near touchline. He drifts a pass back towards his captain Lewis Dunk. All of this just in front of where Fabian Herzl, the head coach, stands in a black puffer jacket with black gloves to match, his black tracksuit and white trainers. Sean Dyche in his technical area, deep in conversation with one of his assistants, Ian Wone, at the moment, as Ruta finds Minte down the right side of the Nottingham Forest penalty area. As he turns back up the wing, he runs straight into Nico Williams, who's enjoying a really good season for Nottingham Forest. He'll put it out for a Brighton throw.
Again, we can see a lot of red shirts there, a lot of red shirts, be it the 4 and the 2 in front, with the back 4 and the 2 holding midfielders. But Brighton are still just able to play through. I really, it's alarm bells really when you've got that many bodies. If you're stretched, sometimes trying to transition and then you get transitioned on yourself or whatever it is, I can understand why maybe Brighton are getting. But again, they've just a simple pass, and it's allowed them to get in. And fortunately for Minte, he didn't quite get the right touch he wanted, but he's won his team a corner. And again, a threatening situation for Brighton, who are loading up this back post for something special.
Maxim de Kuyper has gone across to take the resulting corner kick from the throw-in that was nodded behind. A lot of size in there. Obviously Lewis Dunk is the biggest target of the lot. Here comes the left-footed in-swinging ball towards the back post, kept alive, knocked back towards Rutte, who hits it. It's saved. He has another go, now falls to Welbeck. Right-footed shot is blocked at source. Brighton still have it. Rifa lets it run towards Kadioglu. His shot is deflected and it'll run away out to this near touchline and be a Brighton throw-in next to the corner flag.
Well, from the set piece, we realised that they were overloading that back post. Forest must have seen it, but they've kept their positions. And as de Kuyper swings it in, it's Gomez that just keeps it alive at the back post. Manages to cut it back to the edge of the 6-yard box. Welbeck hits it really well. Oh, it's Rutte actually. Rutte hits it really well, but a great block by Sangari on the line.
Kadioglu's long throw into the penalty area, nodded down, drops, and there's an effort from range from Yasin Ayari on the half volley with his right foot, and Sean Dyche steps forwards. It flies over the top of the crossbar, and Dyche takes that as his opportunity to tell his players that he needs more energy, more intensity. That seemed to be what he was indicating there with his arms.
Yeah, it's been really Brighton having it all their own way there. Obviously that's a really hopeful strike, but a good technique from Ayari there, but it's just all been their own way. I think that's about 4 openings now they've had where, on another day they would have scored at least one of them. So Forest are really going to have to wake up again, travelling from Europe and everything like that, playing European games in midweek and stuff like that. It's always difficult to then react, but another ball over the top.
Yeah, Danny Welbeck will chase it, but the ball had too many legs on it this time and was always going to reach the goalkeeper first. Matt Sells takes no chances and clears that long and over the top and looked to go direct in the direction of Dan and Doy. But again, just like the Brighton ball at the other end, the ball had too much on it, runs straight through to Bart Verbruggen, who has kept only a couple of clean sheets so far this season against Leeds and at Crystal Palace, but he's had a busy first few months of the 25-26 campaign, started every single Brighton Premier League game and has also played 6 international matches for the Netherlands, of course it being a World Cup year, as Lewis Dunk now has it at the back, surveys his options, and every time that one of those centre-halves get it, you can see there are 2 or 3 Brighton players in forward positions that are thinking about getting on their bike and making that run. Here they come again. Yankuba Minte tries to bring the ball under his spell. It's really well cut out by Savona back there. Dan and Doy doing a bit of work as well, and Forest will look to bring it away and just try to get a foothold in this game. We played 11 minutes of it. Forest 0, Brighton 0, and Forest have barely got out of their own half. Brighton looking really dangerous.
They haven't, because what Forest want to do is they want to allow Brighton to have the ball as they want to have it, and then they want to play in transitions. But what they're doing is they've got a back four, they've got a compact back four, but because of the amount of time they're giving Brighton on the ball, Brighton are then putting a 4 against their 4 whilst also having 1 in the 10. So when somebody does threaten to go in behind, be it a fullback or a centre half, they're having to follow the runs, and that's allowing the space for the 10 to pick up the ball, and at the moment they just haven't dealt with it well enough. And yeah, it's really alarming that they haven't potentially done the old trick of goalkeeper going down and reassess.
Rutte plays a ball down the right again for Minte, who briefly got in behind the much bigger, but I dare say slower Morato, who uses that strength and that size to muscle Minte out of it. And it'll be a Brighton throw-in that's been taken quickly. Rutte has it, dangerous Brazilian, left-footed, digs out a shot from 25 yards. Says to Michael Oliver, who's got a fetching grape purple refereeing jersey on today, that he felt like he was being held. It'll be a Forest goal kick instead. You wouldn't know it, Curtis Davis, from the first 13 minutes here, that Brighton haven't really travelled all that well so far this season. Only 1 away win, that was at Chelsea at the end of September, and just 5 of their 19 points this season have come away from the Amex, but they've started this game brilliantly.
Yeah, they've been brilliant. I did watch them recently against Wolves away, a struggling, lacking confidence Wolves side, and Wolves were the better team until they took a back foot and Brighton were allowed to. But today they've taken the front foot, they've taken the onus on the fact that they wanted to come here, lay down a marker knowing that they've played on the Thursday, and yeah, they've been brilliant. And they probably can be slightly disappointed with the fact that I know we're only 15 minutes, nearly 15 minutes into the game, that they haven't taken one of those opportunities, one of those openings, and actually put Forest to the sword.
Brighton of Albion know all about the exertions of a midweek European campaign and trying to balance that with the Premier League. Here's Minte again down the right, ball to the edge of the 6-yard box, initially hit by Vifa. Again, excellently saved by Sells, comes back off Vifa and goes behind for a Nottingham Forest goal kick. But the Belgian shot stopper for Forest can't keep bailing out his team like this.
No, it's another save again. It's Minter again who's been fantastic this first 15 minutes, and it's easy there. He's got Nico Williams beaten because of his pace. He's got a bit of space. He just knocks it down the line. It's just a nice little laid cut back, and as it's hit, it's actually a good tackle by Milenkovic. Yeah, really good toe in the end from Milenkovic to stop the opportunity actually reaching Sells. But again, it's another opening this early in the game, and listen, the back four is lacking pace, and there's a lot of pace in that front line for Brighton, particularly the fact that they're willing runners. But something needs to change. It can't keep happening, be it, if you're going to allow your fullbacks to go tight and maybe drop one of the midfielders in on the toes of the two centre-halves, whatever it's got to be. But at the moment, nothing is changing. Brighton are having it all their own way, and Forest are struggling with answers.
Shouts for handball against Yasin Ayari. Ignored by the referee Michael Oliver as Milenkovic plays a short pass across the back line for Morato. Beautiful sunshine here Trent side today, with a lot of the fans at the moment having to shield their eyes. They might well do, because Morato's giving it away to Minte on the edge of the own penalty area. Fortunately for him, Nico Williams was there covering, and it's gone out for a Brighton throw, almost level with the edge of that 18-yard box. But another nervy moment for Nottingham Forest. As I say, the sunshine, which is shining right in the eyes of every Forest fan who's sat in the Brian Clough stand opposite us. They might well be grateful of the sunshine at the moment, just to block what they're having to watch on the pitch, because they won't be pleased with what they've seen so far. Elliot Anderson recovers possession deep in his own territory in the left fullback position, and then steers the play into the penalty area before clearing it long, where Lewis Dunk waits, controls it on his chest and plays it back to his goalkeeper Verbruggen, dressed all in black. The Forest fans trying to respond, chanting Nottingham, trying to get a response from their players. And Sean Dyche, in his programme notes this afternoon, does mention that he wants the fans to play their part. He knows that they can do and turn this place into a really tricky place to come, as it was especially in their first couple of seasons back in the top flight. This has been a really up and down, unsettled start to the season, but they've looked really rejuvenated under Sean Dyche, who today celebrates, and I use that word with a bit of a wink and tongue-in-cheek, his 40th day in charge, as Igor Jesus gives a free kick away inside the centre circle. 40 days is not nothing in this day and age, in this part of the country, because of course his predecessor, Ange Postecoglou, was sacked on his 39th day in charge.
Yeah, so he's got one better. But yeah, it's a really interesting time in Nottingham Forest here. The fact that when you spoke earlier about Brighton on the attack here,
they are. It's with Ruta, 2 yards outside of the penalty area, rolls it into the box for Minte. Minte gives it to Rifa, who drags his right foot, shot just wide of the far post. And again, you can hear the frustration from the Forest fans here at the City Ground.
Again, so many Forest players in and around it. They probably outnumber the Brighton players by an extra 2 players. But as he comes down the left-hand side, Kadioglu plays a simple pass back to the edge of the box, and then it's rolled wide. And as it's rolled wide, they're just standing off of Minter and giving him a space, and he just rolls it into a space for Rifa, who arrives in the box unattached, and he just drags his shot left of the post, and another really big chance. And the longer this keeps on going, you expect Brighton to get a goal, but whilst they keep missing the chances, they might start losing their confidence as well. So Sean Dyche will definitely be relieved that he's managed to keep this clean sheet so far, but honestly, Brighton have to score this half, and I'll be so surprised if they don't. It's a when, not if.
The best thing that Sean Dyche could say about this performance so far is that they haven't conceded. That is the only good thing that he could say about it so far. Continues to bark instructions from the edge of the technical area. In fact, he was stood on the pitch there for a second. He now retreats into his technical area as Kadioglu, who's playing at left fullback today, rolls a pass across the halfway line to Van Hekke. Now to Wifa, who is popping up all over the place. There was a bit of uncertainty as to whether or not he would start the game in the middle of midfield or at right fullback. He is at right fullback, but that's not stopping him from roaming. This is De Kuyper, left side of the Nottingham Forest penalty area now to Welbeck. Back across to Rifa again. Van Hekke tries to find a ball between the lines, very crowded in there. De Kuyper looks to chip it over the top of the Forest defence, but Savona tall enough to prevent that from happening. Igor Jesus turns Lewis Dunk and goes down. I think he knew he was never going to get the other side of the battleship-shaped Lewis Dunk, and thought he could get a free kick, but Michael Oliver waves that away, and Brighton come again through the ever-dangerous, ever-twinkled toad Yankuba Minte on the right wing eventually runs into a giant red wall, so has to turn back up the touchline. There is Weaver, back to Minte again, looking for Jorginho Ruta, but dispossessed before he could control it and bring the ball under his spell, and Forest have it back, and that's a little bit better from Jesus, who holds it up and then finds Dan Ndoye down the right. Savona opposite offering the overlap, but it's Ndoye who will tiptoe towards the edge of the box and then roll it onto the path of Morgan Gibbs-White, who gets all underneath that, skies it behind into the watching Brighton crowd, and that'll be a goal kick.
Yeah, it's a welcomed, because it's a shot actually at the other end, so they'll take that. But yeah, it nearly hit the top stand from Gibbs-White, not the standard we expect from him. But listen, it was a transition that they actually worked it well, knowing that Brighton are having all this joy. Brighton are sending men forward. We were speaking about Weaver and Kadioglu. The reason they're getting so high, and we speak about them as fullbacks, but they're rolling inside, they're rolling outside, is because Brighton are so dominant, and they're able to just sit with their two at the back with Duncan Van Heck and allow everyone else to go forward. That time Jesus was able to hold on to the ball, good link-up play. Unfortunately for him, as it goes to the back of the end of the box for Gibbs-White, skied over and hit the top stand.
Minte tries to turn away from two or three Forest players, dispossessed this time. Igor Jesus has it just inside of Brighton territory, looks for Ndoye down the right wing. Here is Dan Ndoye, held up by Ferdi Kadioglu, but De Kuyper's there as well. Ndoye will try to go the long way round, wins his side a corner kick. 20 minutes have been played, Forest 0, Brighton 0, still goalless between Aston Villa and Wolves, and West Ham and Liverpool. You can listen to the West Ham-Liverpool game, which at the start of the day is 17th against 13th. Who'd have thought that? On BBC Radio 5 Live, you can listen to Villa Wolves on Sports Extra 3. Elliot Anderson will come across again and slowly wanders over to take this corner kick. Has a few words for his teammates. There's plenty of size in there as well. Nikola Milenkovic, built very much like the Terminator, the Serbian captain, as Anderson, right-footed, turns the ball to the edge of the 6-yard box. Igor Jesus attacks it, and it must have flicked off a Brighton player last, and it'll be a second corner in quick succession for the home team. Yes,
an excellent ball in from Elliot Anderson, out-swinging corner, and Jesus meets it really well. It looked like he got a clean header on it. Oh yeah, it should have been a goal kick. It's actually Weaver heads it onto Jesus' head, but yes, this is going to be one of those that if it does go in, what Sean Dyche was complaining about another situation, if he gets this, I'm sure he won't be complaining after the game.
He won't mind, will he? Deep in thought and conversation with both of his assistants, Stone and Woman at the moment, who are very popular in these parts. Here comes the corner kick, swinging into the 6-yard box, headed away as far as Dominguez. It takes a deflection, a bouncing, bobbling volley. Fortunately for Brighton and Bart Verbruggen, the deflection carried it straight into his gloves, and he didn't even have to move.
Yeah, it was a fortunate deflection, because sometimes when you get those scuffed hits rather than the clean one and it's bouncing into the ground and you're having to look through bodies, fortunately for Verbruggen, straight into his arms, and a set Minte on the break, who takes a heavy touch and kicks out of play.
This time, even the pace of Yankuba Minte.
He's actually looking at the linesman, assuming that Nico Williams has got a touch, but I guess not.
Maybe he's just selling the bad touch really well.
We all play pantomime when we've had a bad touch. We all look at the ground, and that imaginary bobble came from nowhere. So, he's allowed one bad touch because he's been brilliant this first 20-odd minutes.
That was a valid excuse when maybe you started your playing career, but come the end of your playing career, most of the pitches were like carpets. Maybe not in League 2, League 1 with Cheltenham, but everywhere else.
The difference is I'm a doper centre-half. He's a tricky class winger, so he's got less of an excuse than me.
He has proved to be an excellent addition, who joined from Newcastle for 35 million the summer before last. Scored 7 goals for Brighton last season. It was a painful summer in a way for Newcastle United, one that they have lamented several times since, because they had to sell both Minte and Elliot Anderson because of PSR spending rules reasons in that summer, and I think in particular with Elliot Anderson's case, with his emergence on the international stage as well, they have regretted that decision ever since.
Yeah, it's a really difficult one, because there's regret, but it's also, if you'd been hit with, be it an embargo, or you'd been hit with maybe points deductions, we don't really know all the rules, to be honest, the way they work differently, then it would have caused more problems. So whilst they never wanted to lose one of their own, they always wanted him to play for his hometown football club. They're understanding, and they always believed he would get to this level. Eddie Howe speaks about he always believed in him, but unfortunately, because of how good he was the one that held value that allowed them to get that clean money back into their football club.
Goalless here at the City Ground. So many goals yesterday, 22 in total across it was 5 Premier League games on Saturday. None today in the 2:05 kickoffs. At lunchtime, though, Crystal Palace were beaten at home by Manchester United by 2-1. You'll be able to watch all of the highlights, all of the analysis on Match of the Day this evening on BBC One at 11:25. Nikola Milenkovic has it for Nottingham Forest. Short pass for the Italian Savona, who signed this summer, back to the reigning Golden Glove winner, Matt Sells. Not his best bit of distribution. Oh, look, he's just pretended there was a little bubble there inside his 6-yard box.
He hit it clean as a whistle, but down the middle to nobody. So I don't know if he didn't look and saw that Jesus had pulled to the side, but it was clean as a whistle. Good strike, but just nobody was there.
Straight back to Brighton. Here is De Kuyper on the left wing, controls the ball in his chest. That's a really inviting pass into the penalty area, and Minte was arriving, and it was like crash dummies there colliding inside the penalty area with the giant Morato involved, Nico Williams as well from a Forest perspective, and it's Minte who's come off the worst of it, albeit Brighton have themselves a second corner kick of the first half. We've played 25 minutes. It's Forest 0, Brighton 0. You can talk all about the weekend's football on 606, the football phone in this evening on BBC Radio 5 Live with Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton, a dynamic duo. 08085 909 693 is the number to call. And again, Brighton are choosing to stack all of their big players, apart from Lewis Dunk, beyond the back post. There are 3 of them there. As the left-footed ball swings towards it, header down from Gomez, cleared away, not off the line but close to it, and Brighton have it once more as they drift a pass to the right wing. It's back with Minte, 10 yards of space. He's going to have a little run into the penalty area, flicks a pass towards the penalty spot, and Forest have it back again. But another dangerous opportunity for Brighton, and they might well not be done yet, because Danny Welbeck has it. I thought that might well have been offside, but the linesman who's covering eyes from the sun couldn't quite see that, I think, because of the sun. Someone get that man a cap. Brighton again threatening. Forest, another big sigh of relief.
Absolute. We said on the first set piece, when they've had the first corner of the day from that side, spoke about Gomez at the back post, simply just standing there waiting for the cross to come in. They worked it well. He gets the play across, the ball across, Ruta has a shot. Exactly the same setup, nobody does anything different. What happens? Gomez gets the header this time, actually towards the goal, cleared off the line. Am I ridiculous? But
not at all.
Surely after the first one, you've had the warning signs. Professional footballers need to adapt. I understand you have set piece coaches, you have people telling you where you need to be. If I'm on that pitch, I'm saying he's already got one in. Can we move someone from there and take the responsibility myself on the pitch? Because I can see it, I can feel it. Don't wait for Sean to shout down to you. Take responsibility yourself. But unfortunately for them, none of them did it. But the only fortunate thing is they got away with it. Will they do it again on the next one?
Former Premier League defender Curtis Davis with us this afternoon for BBC Radio 5 Live on Sports Extra 2. Elliot Anderson, who's been quiet in the early stages of this game, goes down, fouled by Diego Gomez, who stands over him for a moment. It'll be a free kick for Forest around 10 yards inside of Brighton territory, and he's got some leap at the back post. We're just watching a replay of it here. Climbs so high, heads it down. It's Morato who gets the telling touch to clear it away. Gomez, who has scored 7 goals this season for Brighton, although 5 of those have been in the League Cup. 4 of them were at Barnsley, so it's a somewhat padded resume there. As Anderson takes the ball, fizzes it towards the back post. Morato, the Brazilian defender, gets the first contact, heads it back into the mix, but far too close to the goalkeeper, and that's food and drink for Verbruggen.
Yeah, it's a good drive by Elliot Anderson towards the back left-hand post. Morato catch it really well, but fortunately Verbruggen's brave and he's on his toes, and it's an easy claim for him in the end. But yeah, it's really interesting at the moment just to see, what will Brighton say if they do go in having not scored, because the amount of chances, the amount of openings. I know you as a manager you can keep going, but they've nicked it here in Forest.
They do. It's Nicolas Dominguez down the left wing, left-footed cross, falls to Gibbs wide. A Karate Kid style volley that goes just wide of Bart Verbruggen's left-hand post.
Yeah, and it's Dominguez who nicks it. I think it's from Weaver. Weaver tries to play a ball down the line. Dominguez nicks it from him, plays it round him, and he just hangs up a nice ball with his left foot towards the penalty spot, and it's Morgan Gibbs-White who's meeting it. He tries to scissor kick because it's close to his body, scissor kick side foot, and unfortunately for him and Forest, just goes past the right hand side of the post. But a positive from Forest, actually using that transition to their effect.
Gibbs-White must have thought that was in when he first hit it, because it really swerves away from the goal and past the post in the end. He's been in excellent form, had to miss Thursday's game. Sean Dyche said that he thinks he might have just slept funny, so had a bit of a bad back, and watched the match from the director's box with a lot of the club's legends from their 1979 European Cup win against Malmo. But back today, but here come Brighton, and Kuba Minte from range hits it with his left foot straight down the throat of Sells, who beats it away. End-to-end stuff, Curtis Davis.
Yeah, a clean strike there from Minte, but probably should have looked for De Kuyper again, because if he rolls that down the left-hand side, De Kuyper's going to take a touch forward and either shoot or be able to flash that across. But yeah, now it's Forest on the break. It's becoming a really open end-to-end game now.
Game's really stretched. It's Dominguez again who has the ball, tries to find Morgan Gibbs-White once more, this time just a touch too much on the pass, and again Bart Verbruggen, well placed, sprints off his goal line and dives at the feet of the England and Forest international.
The irony of me speaking about Brighton and going in potentially, having not scored, how more devastated would they be if they conceded? Because that's the thing, the more and more we keep having these chances, having these openings, be it good saves, be it good tackles, be it maybe a misplaced pass, you have to take these opportunities. In the Premier League, it's about the quality of that finish. Yes, you can get into those areas, can you get that finish and be clinical? So far they've been really good getting into that position, but haven't quite found the finish. But they don't want to be caught out by that potential Morgan Gibbs-White breakaway there that they just had a moment ago. So they will have to be a bit more cute and make sure they're putting these chances to bed. Half
an hour in the books here at the City Ground. Remains goalless, as it does in the other two 2 kickoffs in the Premier League. Down goes Kadioglu inside the Forest penalty area. A brief appealing look in the direction of the referee, but nothing in it. The ball goes behind for a Forest goal kick. Sean Dyche continuing to bark instructions to all of his players out there on the pitch. Lost just one of his 7 matches in charge so far, and have won 3 in a row. Not won 3 in a row though, that's all competitions. Not won 3 in a row in the Premier League since the mid-1990s. This is Ndoye on the right wing for Forest. Tries to beat Kadioglu, but that's well read by the Brighton fullback. Wins it back for the Seagulls. They have it on the left wing. Diego Gomez turns inside, and his pass is deflected out for a Brighton throw level with the edge of their own penalty area and on the left wing.
Kadioglu did really well. He was fortunate that the ball out there to Ndoye was just a little bit wide, but once Ndoye got on it, he tried to take the quick touch to take it past Kadioglu as he met him. Kadioglu read the situation, managed to stay strong, won the ball, and they've won a throw-in in their bottom left-hand corner.
Morato wins a header on the halfway line. Elliot Anderson will stretch for it, but De Kuyper gets there first. Ball is being juggled around at the moment. Elliot Anderson inadvertently heads it twice like a performing seal, and then the ball falls to Rutter, and with his left foot looks to dig out a pass in the direction of Minte, who's been such a good outlet for them through the first 32 minutes of this game. We await a breakthrough, but Brighton have certainly enjoyed the majority of the chances. Elliot Anderson thinks about going in for a blood and thunder challenge with Gomez for a moment, then thinks more of it, and Forest have it back with Ibrahim Sangare, who's really impressed in recent weeks, certainly under Sean Dyche. Here is another player who's found his feet under Dyche, that's Morgan Gibbs-White. He rolls the ball out to the right wing for Ndoye, fakes to jink inside onto his left foot, now does, looks to get past Kadioglu, but the Turkish defender does really well to stay in front. Both players fall down. There are some brief appeals for a free kick. The referee says play on, ball through the lines. Morgan Gibbs-White will try to find Jesus. About 2 yards too far in front of him, it rolls behind for a goal kick. And Curtis Davis, I think from your body language, you're going to say that he should have shot.
1,000,000%. It's Morgan Gibbs-White. He's in form, obviously having scored 3 in a row recently, and I don't get why he doesn't shoot. I know the defender's coming across. It's Lewis Dunk coming across. His quality and the way he can hit a ball, if he hits that across the keeper for Verbruggen, that could potentially fall to Jesus. Instead, he tries to make the pass. I don't think Jesus is ever expecting it. Plus, the margin for error with the pass was so finite that it was always going to be difficult, and Yeah, really a big opportunity missed for the Nottingham Forest there.
This is far better from Forest though. It's taken them about 30 minutes to get going, but they are now. Elliot Anderson has it on the right wing inside the Brighton half by around 30 yards. Gives it back to Milenkovic, who squares it across the defence to Morato. Every single Forest player dressed in red and white is inside of the Brighton half at the moment. The only player who's not is the goalkeeper Matt Sells, in all lemon yellow today. Savona has it on the right wing. Back to Elliot Anderson. First time ball finds Ndoye. Hits it first time, comes back to Sangare. Long range effort just wide. Verbruggen was scrambling to his left hand side. He wasn't sure whether or not that was going to threaten his goal. It is a goal kick.
Elliot Anderson's been turning the screw recently. Literally, I saw him a moment ago gesturing to his defenders, play it quicker, give it to Sangare, give it to him, because he wants to get things going. And he's been here, there and everywhere across the pitch, and as that ball comes back outside the box, he whips the ball in. As it's cleared, Sangare lands on it 25 yards out, hits it clean as a whistle, but unfortunately for him, just right hand side of the post.
Long ball forwards from Verbruggen, looking for Minte, well read this time by Williams, and Forest have it again. 35 minutes will tick over soon here at the City Ground, a sun-drenched City Ground, albeit long shadows being cast now on this late November afternoon. Sangare has it again, instrumental in pulling the Forest strings. He'll find Nicolas Dominguez. Dominguez onto the left wing for Gibbs White, back to Dominguez again. All of this now deep in Brighton territory. They give it back to Morato, the number 4 on his back, heavily tattooed, to Dominguez. Right-footed, digs out across, it bounces awkwardly in the penalty area. I think Lewis Dunk read the intentions of Dominguez, and as he was trying to find Igor Jesus, just knocked Jesus off his stride so that the ball could trickle through to the goalkeeper instead.
Yeah, good work from Dunk there, because he realised that as long as he blocks that run there, his keeper will be able to see all the ball all the way. Rather than trying to flash a foot at it, his keeper could see it all the way, and Verbruggen managed to collect it easily and play upfield.
Well, how the tide has turned here at the City Ground. It's all Forest now. Morgan Gibbs-White looking for Anderson, just about gets it back again as the two go 1-2 once more. Elliot Anderson looking to find a through ball, but it's blocked by Rifa. Deflects into the path of Morato, who sprays it out to this right wing for Savono, but Dan Ndoye is offside, coming back on from an offside position, and so that'll be a Brighton free kick. And as I say, how the tides have turned, now they will want to just have a bit of a breather here and take a bit of the momentum out of Forest's game.
Yeah, because again the fans are starting to get excited, starting to get a bit of noise, and ultimately they're having a few chances and shots at your goal and opening. So I think they'll be really disappointed with how they've let Forest back into this so easily. Again, a few of the passes between the lines when they've got a lot of bodies there. Got away with one with that Morgan Gibbs-White flash across the box rather than shooting, and yeah, I still think they'll be going in wondering how they haven't scored, but again they'll be even more disappointed if Forest manage to get a goal before they go in at half time.
Well, Brighton tend to be this season a sort of wear you down team as Kadioglu barges Ndoye off the pitch. It'll be a Forest throwing, and I dare say nothing more than that. In fact, I think it's 80% of Brighton's goals this season come in the second half, which is the highest percentage of any team in the Premier League. And the City Ground faithful finding its collective voice once more, encouraged by what they've seen over the last probably 7 or 8 minutes or so now. We've got 8 minutes to go until the break. A rather clumsy barge from Dominguez into Van Hekke, and it'll be a Brighton free kick 10 yards inside of their own half, and central as well. Dominguez, who had the start of his season disrupted after tearing his meniscus in the latter stages of last season, had to have surgery in the summer, so this is just his 7th appearance of the season for Nottingham Forest. Have it back again, Sangare tries to keep a hold, Morato there too, now Elliot Anderson, level with the halfway line to Gibbs-White, who's popping out on the left wing a lot at the moment. That's lovely from Anderson, who skips away from a couple of Brighton challenges, and then I'm not sure whether or not he was trying to have a go at goal there from around 40 yards. We saw what happened up at Sunderland yesterday with Bournemouth scoring spectacularly. This one was not spectacular, nothing near it, and the Forest fans again encouraged by some good defensive play, this time by Savona. Yeah,
he's good and he's confident, but I don't think he's that confident. It was an excellent little bit of play where he showed some quick feet, turning, then coming back on his feet to go past Ruta, and I think it was meant to be a ball through for Ndoye, but he got a bit too giddy, a bit too much power on it. But yeah, as I said earlier, he started to turn the screw. He started to have a go at his defenders to give it to him quicker, to give it to Sangare quicker, and from there they started to up their tempo and start having a few more opportunities in that Brighton half.
Forest 0, Brighton 0. Brighton flew out the traps through the first 25 minutes or so, but Forest are really in this game now and dominating. And Doy, right-footed curling ball into the penalty area, but there was nobody there, and it'll be a throw-in for Brighton on the far side of the ground, probably 10 yards up the touchline from the corner flag in their right fullback position, in front of the thousands of travelling Brighton supporters.
Yeah, it was the wrong decision by Ndoye there. I think it's a situation, because of how well Kadioglu's done against him today. I think that 1v1 battle's been really good, but Kadioglu's probably had the upper hand of it. He probably didn't back himself to go past and beat him, but right now we're watching Nico Williams. He's down on the floor. He's just made a tackle on Minte, and just as he makes the tackle, he catches the edge of Minte's foot. I think it's more a leg to Minte's foot than a stamp. I don't believe anyone's going to any VAR monitors or anything, hopefully not. But yeah, he's down on the floor receiving treatment right now.
No, I wouldn't think so. Michael Salisbury, incidentally, is the VAR at Stockley Park this afternoon. Nico Williams has been a really important player for them this season, and they could really do without losing any more players. Cameras here are trained on Ola Aina at the moment, who has been so impressive for Nottingham Forest over the last season or so, and Chris Wood too, who of course scored a hat-trick in this fixture here at the City Ground last season when Forest beat Brighton by 7 goals to 0. Wood has scored more goals against Forest than against Brighton, I should say, than any other team in his playing career. 12 in total, but still missing, still almost conspicuous in his absence. It was all along supposed to just be a minor knee problem, but his return date keeps getting pushed back and back, and he keeps getting sent for more and more scans. Nico Williams is now up, as is Yankuba Minte on the far side. The two of them stood shoulder to shoulder with the physios from the respective football clubs. They're both going to be okay to carry on, I would think. 0-0 here inside the final 5 minutes of the first half, as it is at Villa Park, where it's also goalless between Aston Villa and Wolves, and in East London, where it's 0-0 between West Ham and Liverpool. You can listen to both of those games on BBC Radio 5 Live and Sports Extra 3 respectively, as Forest have it in the middle of the Brighton half with Ibrahim Sangare. Now Anderson to Morgan Gibbs-White and onto the left wing for Dominguez. 1-2 back to Gibbs-White down the left wing near the edge of the Brighton penalty area now, with 4 minutes remaining at the end of the first half. Elliot Anderson surges into the penalty area and goes down. I don't think there's any hint of there being any foul play, and both of the injured players are now back on the pitch again, and so both clubs are back up to a full complement of 11 players aside. Sangare to Gibbs-White, who is really popping up in lots of good positions and finding some pockets of space now. Now Williams down the left wing, level with the edge of the Brighton penalty area. Back to Gibbs-White again. Anderson lifts it over the top delicately into the penalty area. Williams' ball is deflected up into the gloves of Bart Verbruggen.
Oh, it's a great ball from Elliot Anderson. As it's rolled back to him, he could easily just recycle it and go out the other side. He just does a nice little lifted, curled ball into the left-hand edge of the box, and it's Nico Williams who gets there. But as he plays the ball across, a vital deflection from Van Heck that goes straight into Verbruggen's hand. So, yeah, the quality is showing from Anderson. The most lively player on the pitch over the last 15 minutes, but in an attacking sense rather than defensive. And he's there again on the ball.
Anderson back to Savona. Savona back to Sells on the edge of his penalty area. Forest will build from the back and find an outlet down the right wing with Savona, who strides past Deitch, who watches on to Jesus. Now back to Savona again, and Jesus has it on the right wing. Little Cruyff turn as he checks away from Diego Gomez, gives it to Ndoye, who can't bring the ball under his spell, and Brighton have it back. Jorginho Ruta fouled by either Dominguez or Sangare, and it'll be a Brighton free kick taken quickly by Van Hecker, and Forest are sleeping. And De Kuyper has it, looking for the overlap down the left perhaps from Kadioglu. Instead goes central to Danny Welbeck, who's been in such brilliant form and is knocking on Thomas Tuchel's door for an England selection, of course, with the World Cup around the corner. The draw is coming up this week for that as well. You'll be able to listen to it on BBC Radio 5 Live. This is Van Hecker, 5 yards inside of the Forest half to Diego Gomez. Telegraphs what his intentions were. They're very obvious. He wanted to play it across the pitch and out to the Brighton right. Williams ran forwards, intercepted, and has been fouled by Yankuba Minte. and Minte is the first player, I think, to go in the book.
It was Weaver.
Yeah, Weaver in the end who was being booked. It was Minte just helping Williams back up to his feet, and that the first yellow card of the afternoon. It's Mats Weaver who goes into the book. And
he'll be thanking Gomez for that one, because it's a sloppy pass across in between both Weaver and Minte, and unfortunately it's one of those good fouls, shall we say, because if not, Williams is on the break and he opens up the Brighton defence.
It's going to be a Brighton throw-in 20 yards inside of their own territory, and on the right wing they kick from right to left in this first half. Hertzler, speaking about the defeat here last season, said it was terrible at the time, but it did help the club's long-term development. As I say, they come on strong in the second half usually, and they score a lot of goals late on. It's become their trademark this season. Not like there was a foul throw a moment ago. That's what the Forest fans were wanting. I think the ball just slipped out of Weaver's hands. He gets it back again, takes the throw successfully, and then though the throw wasn't brilliant, he found the ball back at his feet, which he clips across the pitch out to this left-hand side from Maxim de Kuiper. Didn't have too many options inside the final minute of the first half. At half-time, we'll go silent here at the City Ground, but no worries, we will be back with you for the second half. A good opportunity to switch over to BBC Radio 5 Live, where you'll be able to listen to Steve Crossman and the gang dissect all of the first halves between here, Forest and Brighton, West Ham and Liverpool, and Aston Villa and Wolves. At lunchtime it finished Crystal Palace 1, Manchester United 2. We'll look to bring you reaction from that as well. We'll soon find out how much stoppage time is added on at the end of the first 45, but to end it, Brighton have got themselves a free kick in a really dangerous area, about 3 or 4 yards outside of the Forest box and down the right wing. 2 minutes added on at the end of the first half, and yet more defending for Forest to do against a Brighton team who've looked dangerous from set pieces all afternoon.
Yeah, they have. It's not the same setup from the corner. A big line of Forest players, a big lot of size, but there's a lot of size in this Brighton side, so interesting if it's an in-swinger or out-swinger. Minte's got his hand up.
And instead they're going to go short to the edge of the box for Welbeck, who hits it really tame along the ground with his right foot, trying to pass it through like 19 players on the pitch there. Unsurprisingly, it was blocked all the way back to Verbruggen, who tries to fizz a ball out to the right wing. It's with Rutter into the box. Oh, it's going to fall to de Kuiper, and Brighton are in front. Just a pocket of space for Maxim de Kuiper to squeeze into, and Brighton lead at the City Ground in first half stoppage time. Nottingham Forest 0, Brighton Hove Albion 1.
Oh, and it's great play from Rutter. The initial, as the ball comes back from Welbeck's shot on the edge of the box, it goes back to Verbruggen, who takes his time. Igor Jesus is closing him down. He drives one out to the right hand side, which is headed away by Dominguez. As it lands, it lands to Rutter. Rutter picks up the ball, some great feet, and just slides a ball between the lines. And as it slid between the lines, the Kuiper's there, takes a really good touch, really good first touch. Oh no, it doesn't take the touch. He literally just, Sells comes out and he just puts it in the bottom corner first time. Great finish, great composure, and that's the moment what we spoke about. They've had all the chances in this half. It started to look, if anything, that Forest could be the ones to score, but de Kuiper's made sure that they've got the goal they probably deserved on the balance of play and chances, and they're going 1-0 up. But Sean Dyche will have absolute horror talk at half-time after getting away with so many.
I think it's the presence of Danny Welbeck, because that's who Rutter was trying to find there, trying to find Welbeck, and Welbeck makes the run. Half the Forest defence go with him, and it buys de Kuiper the space in behind to run into out of midfield. And as you said, first time, a really clean finish past Sells. Yeah, well, I mean, from a Sean Dyche perspective, he won't be happy with the defending, but given how they started this game through the first 25 minutes to half an hour or so, I'm not sure how many complaints he can have about his side potentially going in at half-time a goal behind.
Yeah, on law of averages, yes, it was definitely, we thought a Brighton goal would have come, but over the last 10-15 minutes it's Nottingham Forest that have been turning the screw, had the better openings, had the better chances, and now they've got a set piece as well to end the half.
Elliot Anderson 10 yards outside of the Brighton penalty area, really poor ball, belted away. Fortunately for Forest, the referee's whistle comes. It's half-time, because Minte might well have been sprinting after that, and in a foot race with Savona, I know who I'm favouring there. So Brighton go in at the break here at the City Ground, leading by that one Maxim de Kuiper goal to 0. Brighton dominating the first 30 minutes of proceedings. Forest really growing into the game though, but it's Brighton who lead at the break, and Sean Dyche, whatever he was planning on telling his players at half-time, might have to change that now, given that they're a goal down. Curtis Davis.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to change, but the thing he will be pleased with is the reaction to the start of the game. I know they've still gone in a goal down, and they'll be disappointed with the way they conceded goal late on. Second phase of a set piece, they had that many men back there, they've been able to deal with it, but they didn't. But the fact that they've managed to mount chances and have make Brighton think about it, basically, because the start of the game was looking really like it could be one-sided and a long afternoon for those Forest players, but they came into the game really well, and actually at the moment where Brighton got the goal, Forest were a better team. So they had possession momentum, it's just about what they do to take the second half.
As things stand back, going fourth in the Premier League table. A lot of football still to be played this afternoon, of course. You can hear it all across the BBC Radio 5 network, and of course on BBC Sound. Such strength in depth on both of the substitute benches as well from Forest perspective. Hudson-Odoi, Cameron, Amari Hutchinson and James McAtee as potential options for Sean Dyche. From a Brighton perspective, Ryan Gruner, Simas, Hinchinwood, who scored the winner last week against Brentford, Sunas there as well. So we'll find out in the second half whether or not either manager decides to delve into their bench in the next few minutes or so. As mentioned a few moments ago, though, the Marcos will go play it here at the City Ground. We will be back with you for the second half. At the break, Nottingham Forest 0. Are both stripped and ready to come on. Dan and Doy is being replaced in exchange for Amari Hutchinson, and Callum Hudson-Odoi is going to replace Nicholas Dominguez. My name is Charlie Slater. Alongside me, the former Premier League centre-half Curtis Davis, who had to keep his head down here at the City Ground because of his old Derby County links. In fact, actually, you were quite popular as we're about ready to go here in the second half. Michael Oliver, the referee, on cue, blows his whistle as Mullah Kintyre kicks off again here, and those Forest fans burst into song, trying to encourage a better performance out of their players than they saw in the first half. They did come into the game, Curtis Davis, after around the half-hour mark, but still went in at the break 1-0, and those two changes tell us everything that Sean Dyche made of it.
Yeah, I think they'll be wanting to start the half like they finished the first half. Brighton had it all their own way in the first half hour, then Elliot Anderson started turning the screw, getting things going for Forest, and then unfortunately for them, almost against the run of play at that time, Brighton got the goal just on the stroke of half time, which probably was deserved though, the balance of play, but still not good enough for Sean Dyche. And half time he's made a couple of changes that both positive. Interested to see what Amari Hutchinson can do, because, you know, still waiting to get going as a Forest player, but someone that's got great potential and great ability.
So Nottingham Forest will kick from right to left in a kit of red and white in this second half. They will kick towards the Trent end, trailing by 1-0 from Maxim de Kuiper, which came in the first minute of first half stoppage time. Brighton in a kit of blue and white, kicking towards the travelling thousands of Seagulls supporters in the Bridgeford end away to our right hand side. Forest have Sells in goal, a back four of Savona, Milenkovic, Morato and Williams. In midfield it's Sangare and Anderson then, and a three of Hutchinson, Gibbs-White and Hudson-Odoi, as Matt Sells has to be quick off of his goal line to stop Yankuba Minte from getting to the ball before him inside the penalty area, and Igor Jesus remains the lone striker. For Brighton, Verbruggen in goal, a back four of Vifa, Van Hecker, Dunk and Kadioglu. In midfield it's Ayari and Gomez, and then the forward three is Minter, De Kuiper and Ruta, with Danny Welbeck up front. Callum Hudson-Odoi brings the ball down with a plum inside the Brighton penalty area, pirouettes and gives it to Nico Williams, but his control not quite as impressive as his teammate, and Brighton have it back again down the right wing. What will Fabian Hürzeler, we know what Sean Dyche made of the first 45 minutes, what sort of things do you think Fabian Hürzeler would have been saying to his players?
It's just about being clinical. They did allow Forest into the game, and there was the really big chance with Gibbs-White, but that was from a mistake. But he would have just wanted them to stay positive in the way that they were early on. realise where the gaps are. The gaps will still be there, and even more so now because Forest are going to need to open up and try and get a goal. So I think it's really going to be interesting to see how this plays out. We've got Amari Hutchinson and Hudson-Odoi on now, who just had their first bit of link-up to add a bit of pace to that top line. So in transitions, I think those two are going to be vital because their pace and also their 1v1 quality to go at players.
Forest have themselves a free kick in front of their own penalty area after Minte squeezed in behind Nico Williams and brought him down. We played 3 minutes of the second half and it remains Forest 0, Brighton 1. Long ball forwards looking for Gibbs-White, collides with Van Hecke, and Brighton have it back again. Gibbs-White, who hadn't scored a goal before Sean Dyche arrived, he has 4 now, including 2 in his last 2. This is Sangare, who also has found his feet under Dyche. Plays a good pass out to Amari Hutchinson. Bright orange boots, herring his way down the right wing. Turns Kadioglu inside out. Ball into the 6-yard box. Is really well headed away by Vifa. But in an instant there, Curtis Davis, you see exactly what Amari Hutchinson can do.
Yeah, the Amari Hutchinson that we remember, 1v1, goes at him, beats him well, flashes a great ball across the box, but unfortunately nobody there to meet it. But a good start and a positive start for him and for Forest. Yet
to start a Premier League game for Nottingham Forest since signing from Ipswich for a club record fee somewhere in the region of £37.5 million. But that enough to encourage these Forest fans that there's life in these Forest players. Minte and Wifa, they exchange a couple of passes down the right wing as Brighton now track into Forest territory. Back to Diego Gomez, a 1-2 with Jorginho Ruta, who signed from Leeds the summer before last for around £40 million. I watched him a lot in the Championship with Leeds United. I imagine you did as well, Curtis Davis. He was absolutely instrumental for Leeds United, and he certainly was in the build-up to the Brighton goal.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He's a really excellent footballer, very clever, but also just the way he just floats around the pitch. He's able to dovetail into different positions. You know, we see him here on the right, we see him on the left, we see him in the 10. He's just a fantastic footballer, and he's kept that ball in play.
Somehow he's managed to keep it in play. Back to Gomez, now to Vifa, edge of the penalty area. Shot from Ayari is really poor, horrible thing. Dragged it 5 or 6 yards wide quite needlessly. The rest of the build-up play was quite brilliant.
Yeah, that was one of those. Speaking about his quality, he did really well in stages this, and then other ones it was just his sheer determination where maybe the touch was a little bit heavier, but he got to it first, kept it in, and as it lands to the edge of the box for Ayari, it's squared by De Kuyper, and he just gets his bearings wrong. I think he wants to whip it into the bottom corner, doesn't realise how far across the goal he is, and it's way past the bottom left hand side of the post.
Anderson, long ball looking for Jesus, almost falls into the path of Gibbs-White, but Brighton have it back instead through Van Hecke. Turns it back to the goalkeeper for Bruggen, and now Lewis Dunk, who played his 450th Brighton League game last weekend against Brentford. So 1-0 to Brighton here. It's still 0-0 between West Ham and Liverpool. You can listen to that one on BBC Radio 5 live, and on Sports Extra 3, 0-0 between Aston Villa and Wolves. Forest have it. Morgan Gibbs-White on the left wing, captain this afternoon with club captain Ryan Yates on the bench. Hudson-Odoi towards Jesus, who controls it and holds it well on the edge of the Brighton penalty area. Amari Hutchinson jinking into his left side. His shot is blocked. It falls to Anderson. Gibbs-White wants it. Gibbs-White gets it on the left wing. Closed down by Vifa. Curling ball towards the back post is headed away by Lewis Dunk and whacked away by Diego Gomez. Better from Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, really good play there as it comes out to Gibbs-White. Doesn't mess around, just a little turn of feet. Moves it, puts it into the ball. A really good whipped ball from the left-hand side with his right foot towards the backhand post. But fortunately for Brighton, Van Hecke's there to clear, and they managed to clear their lines.
Much more intention to Nottingham Forest's attack now in the first 6 minutes or so of this second half. They continue to trail by 1-0. Anderson and Hudson-Odoi exchange a couple of passes. Hudson-Odoi's curling cross whacks Ruta in the face, and he goes down holding his nose. And the referee, Michael Oliver, has to pause proceedings to allow the physios to come on and check on him.
Yeah, unfortunately, because of Hudson-Odoi's lack of quality on that one cross, it was straight into Ruta's face. And
you know a thing or two about getting a ball in the face, don't you?
Yeah, the difference is I'm willing and wanting to put my head there and expecting it. I don't think he was expecting that. He kind of, when you're caught blind with them, they're the ones that hurt because you're unable to tense, and yeah, I think he'll be all right from this. It's just one of those, it always buzzes you, and yeah, you're seeing a few stars at the moment, but I'm sure he'll be fine to continue.
You can watch all of the highlights on Match of the Day this evening, 25-11 on BBC One, with Kelly Cates coming up at 4:30 on BBC Radio 5 Live. Huge game in West London. Chelsea against Arsenal, that in the company of John Murray and Pat Nevin. At 6:30 this evening, 6:06, the football phone in with Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton. You can get your phone calls in on 08085 909 693. You can also text 85058 on 5 Sports Extra this afternoon. Getting underway in the next 10 to 15 minutes or so, actually. It's coverage of the penultimate Formula One race of the season, live from Qatar. Lando Norris needs to secure at least 2 points more than his teammate Piastri or Max Verstappen to secure his first ever Formula One title. And again, a reminder, Match of the Day, 25-11 this evening on BBC One. Jorginho Ruta still being treated by 3 members of the medical team now. He's sitting up, but very much looks worse for wear for this.
Yeah, he's, like I say, he did. At first, you know, it does catch him. It's not point blank, and it wasn't by any means a thunderous strike, but I guess some people it takes a little bit longer, and yeah, they are checking on him. They are sending people out to warm up just in case. I think Hinshelwood might be getting some instructions just in case. He stood on the side, hasn't got his shirt on yet, but he looks like he's watching intentfully in case he does need to come on. But yeah, I don't really know what will happen here, because he does look like it's
they are going to make the change.
Yep, and it looks like
they've just got word back from the medical team by the looks of things that Jorginho Ruta will not be able to continue, and so perhaps that is Jack Hinshelwood now who is removing his training top. If it is, he's well liked, well admired in these parts by the Nottingham Forest hierarchy. Have been linked with the January move for Hinshelwood, who of course scored the goal to secure all 3 points against Brentford last weekend. The sarcastic cheers you could hear there were from the Forest supporters as the Brazilian eventually got to his feet. But I mean, he's slowly ambling across to the near touchline, and I mean, doesn't look particularly Copus Mentis. Now disappointed that he's being substituted, but surely the right decision, Curtis Davis.
Well, based on the fact they didn't even know he'd been substituted, probably, because usually you can hear the medical staff saying, you know, he's not right, he has to be taken off, and I just assumed that he was taking his time so that the sub could get ready. But yeah, he's not happy at all. He's obviously having a good game. You know, we're only, well, with the added time from him being down, only about 7 minutes into this half, and he felt he had more to offer, but they've made a decision early. Obviously a great replacement in Hinshelwood, not quite the same player as Ruta, but excellent footballer, and will add to this team, but particularly when they're in the lead as well, because he has more of a defensive aspect to his game than Ruta, in all due respect.
Just 20 years old, Hinshelwood has missed time this season with his own injury problems, missed 10 weeks with an ankle problem actually. But here's Amari Hutchinson attacking into the Brighton penalty area. This time couldn't quite dig the right-footed cross out, but he does, tracking back, recover the ball once more for the team in red and white. Sangare has it for Nottingham Forest. We've played 56 minutes and it's Forest who continue to trail against Brighton by a goal to nil. That's wonderful composure from the Dutch defender Mats Wiever, who chests the ball down in the direction of his goalkeeper Bart Verbruggen. His fellow countryman Verbruggen, the two of them play for the Netherlands together, and Verbruggen finds Van Hekke, another Dutch defender. It's quite the Dutch connection at the back there under Fabian Hurtzler. They play it forwards to Diego Gomez. He has Yankuba Minte to his right, being tracked all the time by Sangare. Back to Wiever, and now Van Hekke once more. Blonde hair, bright pinky coral boots. Verbruggen and Van Hekke exchange a couple of passes, and the Brighton supporters burst into song away to our right hand side, singing the name of Diego Gomez, Paraguayan, who on this occasion gives the ball away and puts it out for a Forest throw, so promptly those Brighton fans stopped singing his name.
Yeah, really loose from him there. He's had a good game today. Just solid in the midfield, but also popped up in a couple of goal-scoring opportunities as well.
Gibbs-White takes the ball in stride really well on the halfway line and sets Hutchinson away down the right wing. Ball into the penalty area, in behind Jesus. Scrambled clear by Rifa, only as far as Sangare though. 57 minutes on the clock. Sean Dyche directing his players, telling them where he wants the ball. At the moment, Hudson-Odoi has it with his collar turned up, a la Eric Cantona. Wins his team a throw-in in the bottom corner away to our left-hand side. Taken quickly by Hudson-Odoi, back to Anderson. Now Morato. Every Forest player at least 10 yards inside of the Brighton half. Those are the Forest fans you can hear now. A chant of "Come on you Reds" as we approach the hour mark. Forest still trailing by 1-0.
I do wonder with Hudson-Odoi when the collar up became a thing, because often nowadays shirts don't have collars, so this might be one of the first times in ages you've been able to wear a collar, and he's finally got his Cantona feeling, but he's probably too young to remember Cantona. So yeah, I don't know where it's come from.
You and I certainly remember him.
Yeah.
Ball back to Verbruggen, smashes it clear with his right foot up to the halfway line. A case of anywhere will do at the moment for Brighton, just to stem the flow of this Forest attack. Away to our left, they continue to warm up. Arnold Calamawendo and James McAtee, a couple of local boys in Zach Abbott and Ryan Yates, club captain as well. Yates could have had a hat-trick on Thursday night against Malmo, scored one. As Amari Hutchinson, short pass to Sangare, rolls the ball into the penalty area. Gibbs-White cuts it back towards the penalty spot, but Jesus had ran to the near post, and Callum Hudson-Odoi was also trying to make a dart for the 6-yard box. Brighton briefly have it back, but only briefly, because Forest have it again. Sangare to Milenkovic to Morato, back to Sangare, playing it in triangles, but Brighton ratting around them through Gomez, Minte and Welbeck, trying to win it back. This is Milenkovic, down to the right for Amari Hutchinson, who has looked devilish since he came on at half-time. Those bright orange boots glistening in the fading sunshine towards Elliot Anderson. His first-time shot is immediately blocked. And then Amari Hutchinson, just a touch too over-exuberant in his attempts to tackle. Kadioglu was waiting for the tiniest contact in his back. Down he goes, free kick Brighton.
Yeah, just waiting for that final end bit of product, but it's been a really positive substitution with Hutchinson and Hudson-Odoi, both hugging the touchline on either side, and then they're basically making like a 5 up top, because Brighton are now the ones on the back foot, sitting in, and Forest having it all their own way, just the same way that Brighton were having it in the first half.
1-0 to Brighton here, 1-0 to Liverpool now in East London. Alexander Isak has scored for Arne Slot's beleaguered Liverpool. They lead at West Ham by 1-0. Here goes Callum Hudson-Odoi down the left wing. His cross is headed behind. It's a corner kick for Forest.
Yeah, good work there from Hudson-Odoi. Just takes the touch as he opens up with the touch for the turn. Clever thinking, just lifts the ball over Vifa's foot, and then just manages to just put a cross in with his left foot, which is blocked at the front post.
It's Forest's fourth corner of the game, and Elliot Anderson is stood over the ball, both hands in the air. Right-footed delivery towards the back post. It falls to Gibbs-White. It's blocked, I think, by his own player, and goes behind for a goal kick.
Yeah, you can see the frustration. He's just jumping up and down like a petulant kid, wanting Sangare to get out of the way, but I'm guessing if Sangare is not there, he probably doesn't find his space. But it's one of those ones. Elliot Anderson whips the ball in really well. Hudson-Odoi just darts towards the back edge of the 6-yard box, and if anything, Sangare does do well, because he holds Weaver off, and because of that, Gibbs-White's managed to get the safety side foot volley, which was probably going on target and into the back of the net, but it's blocked by the big centre midfielder.
Do you know what? Fair play to you, Curtis Davies, because we don't have the best angle of that from the back of this Peter Taylor stand. We're looking through a bundle of bodies, and you called that absolutely right. Sangare has blocked the Brighton defender from being able to get out towards Gibbs-White, and you are correct. That is the only reason he's got the space for the shot in the first place. The boos you heard were because Kadioglu was taking his time, tying his bootlace inside the penalty area, delaying the restart, and now there'll be more boos because Nicola Savona has just bundled his way through the back of a Brighton player and given away a free kick around 15 yards or so inside of the Nottingham Forest half.
Yeah, and this will suit Brighton at the moment, particularly just because Forest are having it all their own way this half so far. They want to stem the flow, stop. I never thought I'd say about a Brighton side wanting to stem the flow and stop play and break it up, but so far this half, Forest have got a little bit excited, and the fans are getting a bit of a feel, so this set piece will be interesting.
Yeah, curled towards the back post, and Lewis Dunk's got a lot of space back there. Lays it off for Minte, left-footed ball, back across the penalty area, almost falls to the goal scorer De Kuyper instead. Danny Welbeck gets a couple of touches. Now Diego Gomez, as Forest try to push them away from the penalty area. It's back to Kadioglu, who sends them all the way back to Bart Verbruggen, and Sean Dyche wildly waving, saying get up the pitch, as a long ball comes back in the opposite direction. Maxim De Kuyper controls it, tries to turn in past Savona. It'll be a goal kick, but the Brighton fans are furious. They think it should have been a corner kick. Brighton meanwhile are readying another change. It's going to be Stefanos Simas who will come on shortly, the Brighton number 9, offering perhaps a bit of an outlet for them as Forest continue to pile on the pressure here at the City Ground.
Yeah, Forest, you can see the intensity there, because Matt Sells, as it's gone out for the goal kick, he literally spotted it, played it. They're not hanging around, they wanted to get things going quickly, and yeah, there's a massive sign of intent from Forest, and they have been brilliant this half, but still need to be careful of Brighton on that counter-attack, because we already saw that once the space is open in behind, you've still got Minte, you've still got Welbeck there at the moment who can exploit those spaces and stretch them. So yeah, they don't want to go too soon in this half, but yeah, they've had the better of it so far.
Curtis Davis with us this afternoon at the City Ground on Sports Extra 2, live on the BBC Sounds app. Ball from Milenkovic looking for Hudson-Odoi. It was floated across the pitch, always an easy one to intercept, and Brighton did exactly that. Morato's header finds the feet of Danny Welbeck, and now Brighton, they attack in numbers, don't they? Minte down the right channel, approaching the penalty area, pokes it towards Welbeck, but intercepted before it could reach him. Sangare shows plenty of composure on the edge of his own penalty area, turns away from Diego Gomez, and here comes that Brighton change, and it is going to be Simas who will replace Danny Welbeck. So Welbeck, who came here in such brilliant form, 7 in his last 7 Premier League matches, doesn't get his goal today. He will slowly take his time, and Jorginho Ruta is back out now, not obviously on the pitch, but rather looking somewhat forlorn and miserable on the Brighton substitutes bench, wrapped in a big puffer jacket.
Yeah, they did take him down the tunnel, and he went down the tunnel a bit, shall we say, petulantly, but I think they had to do their checks on him. He obviously feels he was fine, and I'm guessing the fact that he sat there on the touchline means he is. But yeah, frustrating one for him, because he definitely wouldn't have wanted to come off, particularly, probably just wanted the extra bit of time, but sometimes, a call has to be made, and that's what they decided. And listen, Adam Hinshelwood, excellent player, so yeah, not a bad replacement. And
in defence of the medical staff, he'd probably had 2 or 3 minutes or so sat on the turf for them to be able to make a proper assessment.
Sorry, I just called him Adam. That's his dad's name, isn't it? So yeah, it's Jack. Sorry.
We're getting old, because we know the dads.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I've had too often now where I've played against dads and sons. So that's when I knew it was time to retire.
Fair play. Elliot Anderson wins it for Forest, and here comes Morgan Gibbs-White through the middle of the Brighton half. Ball to Amari Hutchinson inside the penalty area, back to Gibbs-White, hits it, and it is blocked by son of Adam, Jack Hinshelwood. It'll deflect and spin behind for a 5th Nottingham Forest corner of the afternoon.
Yeah, good work down the right hand side there from Hutchinson. It's initially Gibbs-White that plays out to Hutchinson, goes 1v1, and he just holds his ground, Gibbs-White, around the edge of the box, and as it's played back to him, slightly behind him.
Corner take quickly by Hutchinson. His ball to the back post, looking for Sangare. He couldn't quite stretch that 6'4" frame of his, and now there's a bit of pushing and shoving between him and Vifa. It's a goal kick anyway, but it caught everybody, including myself and Curtis Davis, by surprise there with the taking of that quick corner. And Forest and Sean Dyche, the supporters, frustrated once more in the length of time that Brighton are taking to restart the play, but you can't really blame them. 66 minutes on the clock. They lead by 1-0 and are looking for just their second away victory of the season in the Premier League. The other one was at Chelsea back in September. Looked very good at home, but less so away from home through the first 3 or 4 months of the 25-26 campaign. This is Van Hecker. Plenty of space for Vifa near the halfway line. That's nice football as Ayari plays it to Hinshelwood, and now we might well be in down the left hand side. It's a lovely ball into the penalty area, well saved by Sells, and then cleared away out to Kadioglu, who hits it, and again saved by Sells. Excellent opportunity for Brighton to double their lead. That cross from the left hand side from De Kuyper was so inviting, and it appeared to, I think, just hits Morato, and it goes past Morato, and then it just hits Gomez. It's really well saved by Sells, almost falls to Simas, does fall to Kadioglu, and Kadioglu's effort is hard and low and well kept out by the Belgian goalkeeper.
Yeah, Sells, that shows why he's such a good keeper. Nowadays we always speak about keepers, how good they are with their feet, but when you've got somebody that can make saves that Sells make, what a fantastic save for the first one. Very reactive. Second one had to stand big, and it was a great save. But yeah, it's a great ball across. As the keeper goes down the left hand side, he looks up and he just puts it into an area knowing there's four Brighton players to match the four Forest players, and it just hits off as Simas. And yeah, unfortunately for them, it's Matt Sells in goal to stop them.
Aston Villa have taken the lead against Wolves at Villa Park. Kamara with the goal. Forest still trailing here against Brighton by 1-0, and Liverpool leading at West Ham by 1-0 at lunchtime. It finished Crystal Palace 1, Manchester United 2. You're up to date as Morato nearly gets his pocket picked by Minte, but Matt Sells comes 50 yards away from his goal and manages to steer the play down the right wing and away from danger. Amari Hutchinson to the byline. Jesus, well saved by Verbruggen, cleared away. Sangare can't bring it down. Brighton's turn to breathe a huge sigh of relief.
What a game of football this is. It's Morato who, in my opinion, has been a little bit shaky. He's the one cog that was different in this. Missing Murillo, missing his pace, missing his leadership, missing the way he plays. So he was the one that came in today and has been a little bit shaky. He loses the ball to Minte. Minte manages to chase after the ball, but fortunately Sells plays it out to the right hand side. As it's played across, Amari Hutchinson gets on the ball. As it's played across, it goes to Jesus, and he hits it clean as a whistle. But Verbruggen was there to make the save himself this time.
Hutchinson down the right gives Anderson something to chase. Right-footed first-time ball in at the near post. Corner kick, Savona headed it, and the Brighton players felt like he got the final touch. The referee disagrees, and it's going to be a sixth corner of the game to Nottingham Forest, who are starting to knock ever more loudly at that Brighton door. Wonderful sweeper keeper play from Matt Sells though in all of that, an excellent distribution as well. Here comes the right-footed outswing, headed down by Jesus, strikes Vifa, I think that was the telling block, and Forest will build again as Brighton briefly clear their lines. Hutchinson, left-footed, stroked ball to the edge of the penalty area, cleared away. Savona is the last line of Forest defence. He turns it back to his goalkeeper, and Sells will immediately get it forwards again, because the giant Serbian Nikola Milenkovic is still farther forward, but he couldn't win the battle against Van Hecke. Brighton clear it, Forest have it once more, and Milenkovic will track back to the halfway line.
What a game of football. No wonder we're getting tongue-tied, because it's end-to-end stuff here. Great game of football. We've only got the one goal, but so many opportunities there from the corner. Jesus rose highest. It looked like he was going to put it in the back of the net, but probably just headed it too low into the bodies in front of him, whereas if he got a clean contact on goal, it was that powerful, probably would have beat Verbruggen in the Brighton goal and made it 1-1.
Forest are 5 unbeaten under Sean Dyche. Their only defeat so far under the former Forest Academy player was at Bournemouth, his first Premier League game in charge. Brighton, inside the final 20 minutes now, are less than that duration away from only their second away win of the season. We're just seeing a replay of Igor Jesus' headed attempt. It hits Vifa, whose arms were down by his side, so any shouts and appeals for handball against Vifa would have fallen on deaf ears, and there was no need for a VAR intervention. Vifa now taking a throw-in, not the best throw in the world, made that quite awkward for Diego Gomez, who stooped even more awkwardly, and it will exchange now to a Forest throw instead. 71 on the clock, Forest 0, Brighton 1. Brighton have led since stoppage time at the end of the first half, when Maxime de Kuyper slotted the ball past Sells into the bottom corner of the net from Jorginho Rutter's through ball. Ryan Yates for Nottingham Forest is being ready to come on. He was a threat against Malmo on Thursday evening. He scored, could have scored a couple more, in fact was involved in both passages of play, which resulted in the other 2 Forest goals, though fair to say that Brighton are up to a little bit more scratch than Malmo are.
I never thought I'd hear the words Ryan Yates and threat without it being a tackle. Because, yeah, listen, I've known Ryan Yates for a few years. We had the same agent, so I know about him. And, really good lad, really honest player, loves this football club, has come through here and has done really well to reach the levels he's had and play the Premier League. And like I say, he's the captain of this football club, and he'll come on to, I'm guessing, maybe shore things up so they can allow maybe Elliot Anderson to step in a little bit more forward and be more creative in those final third areas rather than having to get it from the keeper all the time like he is now.
Yates joined Forest Academy as an 8-year-old. That was his first ever goal in Europe for the club that he loves, as Curtis was saying there on Thursday night. He is stripped, ready to come on, black armband on his right arm, in memory of the Forest Academy goalkeeper Josh Travis, who sadly died this week. Here is Amari Hutchinson, herring towards the byline, right-footed cross, flashes in front of goal and is now on the left wing. Williams retrieves it, gives it to Gibbs White, now to Elliot Anderson. He didn't know that there was Gomez so close behind. In fact, it was Simas. And now Brighton are coming away from danger with Yankuba Minte. Anderson tackles back. He and Minte then collide, and they continue to do so as eventually Forest recover possession. Brilliant game of football here. No quarter being spared by either side. Hertzler sprints out of his dugout towards the touchline with further instructions for his players. He celebrated 50 Premier League games in charge last weekend, though had to celebrate it from the stands because he was suspended. Forrester in again down the right, ball to the back post from Gibbs White, looking for Hudson-Odoi. It'll be a throw in about 3 yards away from the corner flag, down to our left hand side as Forest kick from right to left, attacking the Trent end. 2 changes on the way. Ryan Yates and Arnold Calamuendo are ready to come on.
Hutchinson again, just excellent work as this substitution goes on. Excellent work from him down the right hand side again. Whilst we spoke about the battle between Ndoye and Kalioglu in the first half being quite a tight battle that Kalioglu probably topped, this time Amari Hutchinson is having it all his own way. Every time he gets in 1v1, he's getting to the byline. It's just finding that final pass. He's had a couple of cutbacks that have just been blocked, and he's had that one, a couple flash across the front there. And I always say, listen, he's put it into a great area. The onus is on the striker, the forward player, to get across there, and they've got to tap into an empty net. Well done, Amari Hutchinson.
Here comes the long throw from Nico Williams, looking for Yates, gets a first touch, it flicks down into the 6-yard box, then cleared away by Brighton, and they'll try to sprint the ball away down the right hand side through the Greek 19-year-old Simas, but Morato had enough pace to stay in front of him. So just to confirm those 2 substitutes for you, Arnold Calamuendo, who scored his first Forest goal on Thursday night, and Ryan Yates on for Ibrahim Sangare and Igor Jesus. We have played nearly 75 minutes here, and Brighton are edging ever closer to a precious 3 points that could see them climb up the Premier League table this afternoon, though scores elsewhere might well prevent that at the moment. Villa continue to lead Wolves on Sports Extra 3 by a goal to nil. Liverpool are leading as Nikola Milenkovic hits it from 35 yards. It goes about 5 yards wide. Barbara Bruggen was never worried about that one. Yeah. It was speculative, to say the least, from the big Serbian.
I did see 6'7" Caleb Taylor hit one for Millwall yesterday into the top corner, so I think everyone's getting a bit giddy. Milenkovic hits it really well, clean as a whistle strike, but unfortunately the goal has not grown an extra 6 yards to the left. But yeah, it's the intent there, isn't it? It's the confidence that they're growing with, that they're willing to take on those chances, and yeah, they've got their tails up now, Nottingham Forest, but need to get that goal.
Jack Hinshelwood might well be onside here, in behind but down the left wing, outside of the penalty area. Savona eventually gets back in front of him. Hinshelwood content to just play it back into the midfield for now towards Diego Gomez. Across the midfield to Vifa and back to Van Hecke. The 2 exchange a couple of passes, and now it's with Minte on the right wing. 76 minutes tick over here at the City Ground. Brighton still leading by a goal to nil on Sports Extra 2 on BBC Radio 5 Live. Liverpool leading at West Ham by a goal to nil. Still to come at 4:30. Live commentary of Chelsea against Arsenal. That our 7th and final Premier League commentary of this weekend on 5 Live and BBC Sounds. And here come Brighton again with Vifa. He's got Simas as an option and Minte. It goes to Minte into the penalty area, cuts back onto his left foot, then onto his right. Eventually Williams makes the challenge, and Callum Hudson-Odoi will bring it away down the left.
that's the problem. He was always going to cut back with his pace. If he just knocked it past Anderson there, he was in a great position just to get it towards the byline, and he'll cut across because they were outnumbering the Forest side. They're letting Forest off again with these little openings they've got. Wrong decisions are costing them, and again it will be similar to the first half. If they don't take these chances now, they could rue potentially a Nottingham Forest equaliser.
We'll bring you all of the reaction at full time in that game at West Ham against Liverpool, and before kick-off at 4:30 from Stamford Bridge. And then of course match of the day is on BBC One tonight in the company of Kelly Cates, 25-11, with all of the weekend's action from the Premier League. The Monday Night Club then returning from 7 until 9 with Mark Chapman tomorrow evening on BBC Radio 5 Live, before a busy week of Premier League fixtures on the 3rd, which is Wednesday night. Nottingham Forest are at Wolves, and Brighton will host Aston Villa, who continue to lead against Rob Edwards. Wolverhampton Wanderers by a 0-0. Edwards' second game in charge of Wolves, as Forest have it at the back. And just for a moment, the match just takes a breather. I'm sure it will build to a crescendo once more for you on Sports Extra 2.
It allows us a breather as well, because can't get our words out quick enough. The amount that was going on, end-to-end stuff. Brilliant game of football.
Verbruggen takes a couple of touches and then eventually clears it away, with Callum Owendo bearing down on him. It'll be a Forest throw-in midway down the touchline inside the Brighton half, and Williams takes it, gives it to Hudson-Odoi, who was a half-time substitute for Sean Dyche. There's a lovely back heel from Hudson-Odoi to Williams. First time cross. Never had the pace, power nor aerial threat really to trouble the Brighton defenders. They put it out for another throw-in, and Ryan Yates will look to win his side a corner kick, which he does.
Yeah, good work again. Just keeping Brighton pinned in when they can, doing the right thing, being a bit patient with it. But when they're able to exploit 1v1 situations, they do. But Elliot Anderson again on this ball, and the last couple have been really testing for this Brighton defence.
Anderson's right-footed cross towards the back post, but the goalkeeper read that, watched it the entire way before it then gently dropped into his gloves. Good goalkeeping from the Dutch number one, still only 23 years old, Verbruggen. Another brilliant bit of recruitment from the Bloom reign at Brighton Hove Albion. He is here this afternoon, Tony Bloom, so the cameras focus on him before. Anderson square to Hudson-Odoi on the left, tries to skip in past Vifa, forced away by the Dutch fullback. Now Yates, 22 on his back. Few fans shouting for him to shoot. He wisely goes out wide to the right instead. Savona tries his luck at the near post with the goalkeeper. Yates wanted the ball pulling back. Brighton unable to clear this effectively enough, and Forest will come again. Wave after wave of attacks now towards the Trent end. Good ball from Anderson to Hudson-Odoi into the penalty area. Excellent sliding block from Jan-Paul van Hekke to put it behind for another Forest corner.
Yeah, great work there by Van Hekke. As Hudson-Odoi arrives there towards the 6-yard box, all we can do is just try and slide. He can't make the tackle, try and slide, put him off, and unfortunately for him, he gets the block for the corner, but they've got to defend this now.
Rinse and repeat. Anderson again. This time the keeper stays at home. It's headed clear out towards the Italian Savona. Takes a couple of touches, surveys his options, and gives it to Amari Hutchinson on the right wing. Left-footed cross is a poor one, but so's the clearance. And now Gibbs White has it. Little spin away from Simas to his running buddy Anderson. Good defending though from Diego Gomez. Stops Anderson in his tracks, passes it down the right wing for Yankuba Minte. And it's just a momentary breath for Brighton as Anderson recovers, makes a challenge. Looked like he got the ball, but Michael Oliver blows his whistle, gives Brighton a free kick. It was right in front of where Sean Dyche was standing. He and Anderson thoroughly unhappy with Michael Oliver there.
Well, Minte does really well. Well, first of all, Williams does well, because what he does is he doesn't overcommit. He gets tight enough to Minte so that he can delay him, make him go back. But as Anderson gets there, Minte does really well. Just taps it between them. A slight tug there from Nico Williams. So it probably was a free kick. But yeah, good work from Minte, who was being shouted at by his manager earlier, when we spoke about for not pressing after having run about 50 yards on the sprint. But yeah, he's putting in a good shift for his team. Just seen him take a gel there, which he probably needs after all the running he's done to stretch the game for this team, and how vital and important his pace on the breakaway is.
Managers are never happy. Brighton meanwhile are preparing 3 changes. Veltman, Gruder and Baliba are all stripped and ready to come on. The fourth officials come across to make sure that they're not wearing any jewellery or any other offending articles. It's going to be a Nottingham Forest goal kick as play resumes before that Brighton can make those changes. And Matt Sells dribbles the ball outside of his penalty area before unleashing a long ball forwards into the Brighton half. Cleared back in the direction of the Forest defenders, and Milenkovic has it. Forest in their red home strip with pinstripes of white. Long ball over the top, and Calamawendo is in behind, retrieves the ball, finds Ryan Yates, more by luck than anything else. Now it's with Hutchinson. He's got the overlap from Savono, but Hutchinson will go alone. He dribbles into the penalty area. He's being watched ever so closely by Maxim de Kuyper. Here's another cross into the increasingly peppered Brighton penalty area. Hudson-Odoi on the left wing rolls a pass back to Morgan Gibbs-White, who nonchalantly rolls the ball under his studs, plays a 1-2 with Elliot Anderson, and then goes down off the ball, does Gibbs-White. Now Hudson-Odoi, play will continue without him. Eventually he'll realise that, and I imagine get back up if indeed he is capable of doing so. Callum Hudson-Odoi is going to try his luck from range. It would have had to have been pinpoint from around 23 yards with his right foot to trouble the goalkeeper, and it wasn't. Here come those Brighton changes.
I have seen Callum Hudson-Odoi do that a few times, so it's not out of his reach, but yeah, that one just too high. I think the difference in Brighton now is they're obviously making more substitutions now, but the loss of Welbeck, I know, listen, he's an older player, you need to protect him and give him a rest at times, but they're not holding the ball up enough. It's just allowing wave after wave of Nottingham Forest attack, and yeah, I think now they're going to settle for this 1-0 and not try and chase any more.
Well, the three changes, first of all, we'll see Brian Gruder replace, I think that's Yankuba Minte by the looks of things. Another change saw Carlos Baleba come on for the goal scorer Maxim de Kuyper, and then Joel Veltman is the last to come on, and he will replace Diego Gomez. Fresh legs just when they need it, and you wonder with James McAtee's also stripped inside the Forest technical area. You wonder with Carlos Baleba, so much attention was on him over the summer. His form has taken a real dip. He was hooked at half-time against Brentford last week. He's had to settle for a place on the bench today. How can he rediscover that form?
I think it's sometimes, when we spoke about the 7-0 defeat before that they had, and sometimes you learn from those moments. I think when you're in these tough moments, they're going to come. If he's going to end up playing for, with all due respect to Brighton, one of the top clubs in this country that are always challenging for titles, then that scrutiny is going to come. So I think he's more than capable of rediscovering that form, because he's an excellent player, and I think it's just when you're a young player, you've had all this success, you're going to have a dip. It's making sure that dip doesn't keep on going, and yeah, hopefully for him, he can see the game out with no errors today.
Concern for Nottingham Forest as Morgan Gibbs-White is withdrawn with an injury, looks quite sorry on his face, very frustrated. Comes and sits in the dugout though, doesn't go straight down the tunnel, which is usually an encouraging sign. He's been replaced by James McAtee, who one of several signings in the summer who are yet to really settle in all that well at the City Ground, though I think you can afford them an excuse or two given the sheer amount of upheaval that there has been here by the banks of the River Trent. And here is McAtee, who stands on the ball and just buys himself a moment of space before rolling a pass to Elliot Anderson. On the left wing, Anderson does brilliantly to find McAtee, and that's a brilliant looking cross from McAtee, looking for Calamawendo, but what excellent defending from Lewis Dunk to stretch and intercept and turn it back to his goalkeeper.
Elliot Anderson there, great link-up play with McAtee. Both of them played, as much as he's had to learn his role here, they played together in the England 21s and know that link-up play. Great 1-2 play, and McAtee puts a really excellent ball across. Dunk gets the foot on it, which can go anywhere. Fortunately for him, straight into Verbruggen's hands.
Inside the final 5 minutes of the game, Brighton still leading by that de Kuyper goal to nil right at the end of the first half. Brighton love a stoppage time goal, particularly at the end of games. They score, along with Liverpool, the most goals in the last 15 minutes of games in the Premier League so far this season, but it's a bit of a theme that they've had for the last 4 or 5 seasons. Hudson-Odoi 10 yards inside of the Brighton half, skips past the challenge of Van Hecker and keeps play alive for Forest. Hutchinson has to stretch for a ball as he cut inside and the ball went outside. Ryan Yates has it now down the right wing near the byline. Checks his ball back in the direction of Calamawendo, but headed away before it could reach the French striker who scored his first goal for the club, having joined for 25 million from Rennes in the summer. Another cross into the Brighton 18-yard box is cleared away. It'll be a Forest throw. You feel, Curtis Davis, that Sean Dyche's side will get one more chance in this game.
Yeah, they're throwing everything at it. You could see there, even Savona, he played the ball wide and sprinted into the box to join the attackers. You know, here they've got a set piece here, sending the cavalry forward. Morato's going forward, Milenkovic is going forward, Savona. Put as many big ones in that box and see what happens. But even if it doesn't, there's a second play for it, because they've literally got everyone back Brighton, so they'll have a second bite at this cherry.
Anderson's right-footed cross into the penalty area, looking for Milenkovic, who, stretching, heads it high and wide, and it's not too handsome from the big Serbian, and it'll be a Brighton goal kick, who are close to exacting a modicum of revenge for that humiliation that they suffered here last season at the hands of Nottingham Forest. Of course, it was 7-0. It was Brighton's worst ever top-flight defeat. They met 3 times in all last season. Brighton didn't win any of them. They met in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup on the South Coast as well, and that finished 0-0 before Forest squeezed past them on a penalty shootout. Long ball forwards. Morato can't head it back towards the keeper in time. Sells comes out. The ball is going to end up in the back of the net from Simas, and Brighton have their second, and it's a defensive calamity for Nottingham Forest. Clear blue sky now for Brighton, who celebrate in front of their away fans, who are going absolutely berserk. What a horrible mix-up at the back. Not for the first time this afternoon. Morato has put his goalkeeper in trouble. Sells came out. Initially it looked like Brian Gruder would be the man to punish Forest, but as he was brought down by Sells, the beneficiary was Stefanos Simas to tap it into an empty net. And it's Nottingham Forest 0, Brighton 2, with a minute or so remaining. What did I tell you about late Brighton goals, Curtis Davis?
Well, that's exactly it. I was going to give you the credit for saying about the late goals, but what I said about Morato, about in terms of playing games, having those partnerships, he makes the mistake in the first place, nods it back to Sells. Maybe Gruder, maybe ask for a penalty, but what he does, rather than clear it, he stops the ball. And once he stops it, Simas runs onto it, thank you very much, puts it into the empty net. 2-0, good night. Brighton 2, Nottingham Forest 0.
And Forest fans in their droves are now emptying out of the City ground all around us, as Nottingham Forest are heading for their second defeat under Sean Dyche. 2 losses in 8 games it'll be, unless there is something truly remarkable to come, but it doesn't feel like it on an afternoon where Brighton were the best team for the first half an hour or so by a country mile. They've had to soak up an awful amount of pressure in this second half, but soak it up they have, and hit Forest on the break they have, and Forest very much architects of their own downfall.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. When we spoke about Brighton, we said about if they don't go in at half-time having scored a goal, they're going to be scratching their heads.
Here they come again, cutting through the middle of the midfield, but this time Forest have enough players back there to win it away. Elliot Anderson with a double drag back, aka Zinedine Zidane from back in the day, and then finds Callum Hudson-Odoi on the left wing. We have 7 additional minutes here at the City ground. It's more than enough time for a grandstand finish. Hutchinson to Savono inside the penalty area, blocked behind, corner kick Forest.
Yeah, they're throwing the kitchen sink at it, Nottingham Forest, but in response to that, Brighton are defending well. They're just all the bodies on their line. That line there, even if they got the ball across, there was a line of 6 people to get past. I think 2 of them threw themselves at this to give Forest this corner.
We are inside 7 additional minutes as the ball is whipped in at the near post from Amari Hutchinson. And it's Brian Gruder who has it for Brighton. Number 8 on his back, tackled by a fellow number 8 in Elliot Anderson. And the Reds of Nottingham have it once more with Hutchinson down the right wing. Back to James McAtee. Anderson takes a loose touch initially, but still manages to hold on to it and then floats across into the penalty area beyond everybody behind for a Brighton goal kick. They lead by 2-0. A late goal at the end of the first half got them in front. A late goal at the end of this second half has surely sewn up all 3 points for them, and this trip to Nottingham is a whole lot more favourable to all of those Brighton fans who are waving the Forest supporters out of the City ground than it was last season when the two met here in February. Danny Welbeck sat on the bench, didn't get his goal today. He's old enough to not mind when it results in all 3 points. This is Vifa for Brighton, directly in front of the Forest dugout, and Callum Owendo really clumsily bundles through the back of the Dutch fullback. It'll be a Brighton free kick, and understandably so. Fabian Hürzeler's side are going into slow down mode at every opportunity.
Yeah, it's obviously just it's game management now, isn't it? You know, I think actually they have gone back to Van Heck. I thought they were going to do the one where one stands on the ball, he eventually walks away, and then they play the ball. But yeah, this is the way they like to do it. They've got Forest chasing all over, and yeah, it's just going to be about seeing the game out. But they would rather see it out in possession than allowing Forest to keep just turning the screw and going at their goal, which they're doing really well, because now they have another throw and it's keeping them in Forest half.
Brighton have 5 minutes of stoppage time still to see out. Liverpool likewise are edging ever closer to all 3 points in East London. They have scored a second, Cody Gakpo, and they are 2-0 up at West Ham. In the West Midlands, in the derby there, it is Aston Villa 1, Wolves 0, so defeat by the looks of things for Rob Edwards in his second Wolves match in charge. Still to come at 4:30. It's Chelsea against Arsenal, live on BBC Radio 5 Live. Match of the day this evening, 25-11 on BBC One. Kelly Cates will take you through all of the afternoon's football, and as I mentioned, still so much more to come. At lunchtime, Crystal Palace were beaten at home by Manchester United by 2-1. The Formula One is on BBC Radio 5 Sports Extra right now. It's the penultimate race of the season. It's live from Qatar. Lando Norris is closing in on his first ever world title. Long ball forwards from Nottingham Forest, headed down by Milenkovic, retrieved by McAtee, and now it's with the dancing feet of Amari Hutchinson. We've played 93.5 minutes, so still 3.5 remaining of stoppage time here. Hutchinson still has it, twisting this way and that, eventually squeezes his cross into the penalty area, but it's headed out by Belieber for a Forest throw next to the corner flag. Curtis Davis.
Yeah, and what this will be is if they can keep it in the end, this will be a welcome clean sheet for Brighton. Only 2 clean sheets this season, so they definitely need this, and it will show a sign of resilience for the amount of resilience they've had to show against this Forest side in this second half, literally knocking the door constantly throughout the half, to have not only withstood the pressure, but to go and get a second goal and kill the game off. They'll be delighted with this.
Nikola Milenkovic has gone up in a almost striker role now, just offering an aerial presence. So desperate are Forest to try and get a goal back, but the Serbian is now having to sprint back into his regular defensive position, because Brighton have themselves a throw-in level with the halfway line, maybe a few paces now inside of the Forest half. Sean Dyche stands in a blue Nottingham Forest club tracksuit with yellow stripes and arms by his side. We'll wonder where the performance of a week ago at Anfield has gone. It's Hutchinson on the right wing. He runs into a giant Brighton wall in the shape of Lewis Dunk. Has the ball on the left wing, plays it down the left touchline for Simas, goes down and says he's been caught by a trailing arm. Milenkovic tells him to get up. Michael Oliver likewise. Fabian Hürzeler was quite literally hopping mad on the edge of his technical area for a moment, and Simas is slowly getting back up to his feet again now. 95 minutes on the clock, less than 2 minutes of stoppage time now remain. It's Forest 0, Brighton 2, and Forest continue to try and get a goal back in this game. Ball is floated into the area. Williams attacks it with his head, comes out to Ryan Yates, another cross into the box, brilliantly chested down by Lewis Dunk to his goalkeeper, who burns a few more seconds off the clock, and that encourages a few more Nottingham Forest supporters to head for home.
Very brave and very composed from Lewis Dunk there, just chests it back to Verbruggen. But you know, after seeing what Morato did, being 2-0 up with minutes left on the clock, you'd think he'd just want to clear it, but fair play, because Brighton have the ball.
Difficult afternoon for Morato this afternoon. He was the one change, came in for Murillo, who he came off on Thursday evening with a little bit of a limp, and though nothing too serious, we're told, it's thought that Sean Dyche and his medical team are taking a cautious approach. Perhaps now, if there was any chance that Murillo could have played this afternoon, they might well be regretting erring on the side of caution. This is Nico Williams in towards Milenkovic, forced back to his goalkeeper. We're inside the final minute of 7 additional at the end of this game. Brighton leading by 2-0. Liverpool have won 2-0 at West Ham. Aston Villa are seconds away from securing a 1-0 win at home to Wolverhampton Wanderers, who looked condemned at the bottom of the Premier League to relegation unless Rob Edwards can work some real magic through the remainder of this season, and of course there's plenty of time still to do so. Brighton are cruising now to all 3 points here at the City Ground. It's not been that comfortable all afternoon, but they have a throw-in next to Sean Dyche, and you better believe they'll take their time over it.
Yeah, no doubt here, get the ball up the pitch. I don't think Van Hecke's going to be dropping off to get this one now. We will just send it down the line for Gruder, who'll try and delay the play.
The 7 minutes are up. The whistle is in Michael Oliver's lips, and he blows for full time. Revenge for Brighton and Hove Albion at the City Ground, where they were handed such a punishing defeat a year ago. How they'll take comfort in this one now, all 3 points, and their second away victory in the Premier League this season. That'll do their hopes of returning to European competition no harm whatsoever, but a reality and a dose of it for Sean Dyche and these Nottingham Forest supporters. The going had been so good for them, 5 unbeaten prior to today, 3 straight victories where they'd scored 3 goals in each, but they couldn't find a way through this afternoon and are beaten at the City Ground by 2-0. Curtis Davis.
Yeah, listen, in isolation, this one game, there's no hard done in it. After the job that Sean Dyche has done coming to this football club, he's turned it around. So I think after a Thursday game, it's always difficult when you want to use most of the same players. You're trying to get your rhythm as a manager, so you want to play the same team on a Thursday as a Sunday. That became part of the problem, and unfortunately as well, not that the whole balance of play landed on him, but Morato at the end there, just sometimes when you do have that new person that comes into a settled side or settled back line, it can upset it a little bit, and unfortunately he made the key mistake at the end that cost him. But that being said, they had a really good second half, really positive on the goal, just lacked that last bit of quality, along with a couple of really good saves and blocks. So I don't think too much to cry about for Forest. I think they can be pleased with most of the performance other than the first 30 minutes, but Brighton are the victors today and go back to the South Coast with 3 points.
A vast sea of red seats in every direction, apart from in the Bridgeford stand, where the Brighton supporters are stood to a man, woman and child, waiting for one of the players to come forward, give the 3 punches of the air. It's Stefanos Tsimas, the man who scored the second goal, who comes forward and gives the travelling supporters what they want. As it stands, they're up to 5th in the Premier League, quite quietly I might say as well.
Yeah, we're a third of the way through now, but that's the thing with Brighton. Everybody's been speaking about, the title race. Is it Arsenal? Is it City? What are Liverpool going to do? Are Liverpool going to come back? Aston Villa winning today is the only thing that's made them not be in 4th. So, really good start to the season, especially considering, that's only the second clean sheet. It's all positive. There's a lot to build on still to make sure they maintain these positions. But a brilliant performance against a very good Nottingham Forest side that have been in form recently.
Only their second clean sheet, only their second away win of the season. You're quite right. Aston Villa up to 3rd as things stand, but remember, Chelsea play at 4:30. You can listen to that on BBC Radio 5 Live. They start the match in 4th position, of course. Arsenal 4 points clear of Manchester City at the top of the Premier League table. Aston Villa have beaten Wolves by 1-0. That is now full time, and Liverpool, as I mentioned earlier, have won 2-0 at West Ham United this afternoon. From a Nottingham Forest perspective, Curtis Davis, just a last word on them. Murillo missed today, injured. Morgan Gibbs-White withdrawn with an injury towards the end of the game as well. Chris Wood still out and seemingly no idea of a return date there either. Ola Aina continues to be injured. Sean Dyche has got his work cut out, no matter how good it's been of late.
Yeah, he has, but hopefully with the Gibbs-White one, he did take a knock just beforehand, so sometimes that might have been protecting from himself rather than letting him finish the game, because he did sit down on the bench and we didn't see him heavily strapped or anything like that. Obviously with the rest of the players still to come back, that's a different thing, but coming up they've got 2 away games. Wolves on paper is winnable, but the tide has to turn there at some point. He won't want it to be that the tide turns against Forest, and then back to his former club Everton. back at that new stadium, he put a lot of foundations in making sure they stayed in this league to be able to play games in that stadium. I'm sure he'll want to go there and get one over on his old employers.
Yeah, 3 away games on the spin now for Nottingham Forest. Reds fans here won't see their team at the City Ground again until the middle of December when they host Tottenham, and who knows how that can play out. Curtis Davis, thank you for your company this afternoon, very much appreciated, and for yours as well on the BBC Sounds app and on Sports Extra 2. Here at Brighton, a late goal from De Kuyper at the end of the first half and a late goal from Simas at the end of the second half. See Brighton and Hove Albion come away from the East Midlands with all 3 points. It's finished Nottingham Forest 0, Brighton 2.